Part 29. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 293. Come to the next update. Is it a bit unexpected? That's right, she did something wrong to me. Originally, Wang Yu was just testing his brother jokingly. Hearing what his brother said, he was taken aback for a moment, and quickly asked, what did she do to feel sorry for him? Did she like him too? Wang Ji quietly glanced at his wife Sumei, seeing that she was hugging her son and talking to his mother. He breathed a sigh of relief, and stared at his sister warningly. Where is your sister-in-law? What nonsense are you talking about? Is it true? Wang Yu's eyes were wide open, and he glanced around. Seeing that everyone was talking about themselves, and no one was paying attention to them, he poked Wang Ji and begged, brother, tell me, keep your voice down, no one will hear you. This matter has been on Wang Ji's mind for many years, and it has also made him uncomfortable. In addition, he and his sister have had a good relationship since childhood. I can stand up bravely like a man and grab her. As for me, I will take it seriously, and you know that at that time, my brother was young and was at the age when I was full of curiosity about the opposite sex. When she said that, she felt that her vanity was fully satisfied. I really decided to talk to Zhou Mikang, but I didn't want to steal his girlfriend, but I felt that it was a very sad thing to be together without love. In the end, when I was going to find Zhou Mikang, I heard Yamiru say exactly the same thing to Mei Yitong. Do you know how I felt at that time? Disgusting, like eating a fly. It was precisely because of that I told Zhou Mikang that Yamiru was not suitable for him. Being with Yamiru would destroy him. But at that time, how could Zhou Mikang listen to it? Result. He just asked me if I also liked Yamiru. Just this one sentence crushed me in an instant. In fact, I broke up with him in a fit of anger. The most important thing was my guilty conscience. And if I didn't contact him afterwards, I still felt guilty, and then contacted him later. Because the hurdle in my heart has never passed, it is difficult to go back to the past. I know Zhou Mikang's character. If I don't take the initiative to show favor, he will never show favor to me. However, it seems that I was wrong again. I really didn't expect that today, he would come over and take the initiative to show his affection to me. I'm curious what kind of girl he is marrying now. Wang Yu nodded with a smile. I'm also curious to hear what my brother said. A good woman can make a man open-minded. He should marry a good woman after thinking about it, he asked again. Then about Yamiru's marriage, do you want to tell him? Need not. Wang Ji shook his head. There is nothing to say about this matter, he already has his own family. Yamiru visited him while he was in custody, but in the end, she married a man surnamed Huang, which means that Zhou Mikang clearly rejected Yamiru. Since this is the case, why do we do such immoral things that destroy people's marriages? Regardless of whether Zhou Mikang would be grateful to Yamiru or not, it was impossible for her to feel guilty when she heard that she would rather marry a severely disfigured man for her own sake. But according to my understanding of Yamiru, what she wants is to make Zhou Mikang feel guilty for her, and feel guilty for the rest of her life. According to what my brother said. Wang Yu frowned tightly. Yamiru will never be a hero behind the scenes. If we don't say it, she will say it herself. Then, brother, should I remind Zhou Mikang, lest he fall into Yamiru's tricks? After pondering for a while, Wang Ji shook his head. He has to solve this matter by himself, so let's not worry about it. Well, anyway, I just want to remind you, what to do is up to you. Wang Yu sighed softly. We really don't care about salty carrots. The family is much worse, alas. Let's study our own affairs. Our family has nothing to study. If we should work hard, we should work hard. Don't think about anything else. Our family's sensitive identity is here. If you think too much, it's easier to get right and wrong. We think so. Wang Yu nodded his chin towards his uncle and uncle. Those two families don't think so, but from the perspective of outsiders, we are still a Wang family. Wang Ji raised his eyebrows and looked at his sister. Can you take care of their affairs? I can't manage it. Then it's over. If you can't control it, you have to control it. The consequence is that the more you control it, the more mysterious it becomes, and the more you control it, the more serious it becomes. Alas. Wang Ji sighed and changed the subject. I'm still too soft-hearted. When I left City A, I swore that I would not spare Zhou Mikang easily, but in the end, after he only said a few words, I was not angry with him anymore. I am not reconciled. Knowing that my elder brother didn't want to get involved with the affairs of the uncle and the second uncle's family, he deliberately brought up this matter to talk about it. Wang Yu stopped worrying about what will happen to the Wang family in the future, and followed his elder brother's voice. Then just wait for him to come out, beat him up and have a good time. Do you think I can beat him? Wang Ji curled his lips, and suddenly remembered the glorious deeds that Zhou Mikang did in the prison, so he told his sister one by one. It was 40 minutes later that Zhou Jingping and Zhou Mikang came out of the old man's study. Wang Yu stared at Zhou Mikang with glowing eyes, as if he wanted to pounce on him and take a bite. Noticing the look in her eyes, Mr. Wang frowned and coughed lightly. Xiaomi, when you come next time, bring your wife with you and let Grandpa see her. Zhou Mikang was taken aback for a moment, and quickly responded, yes. Wang Yu just looked at her grandfather with black lines. She just worshipped him and beat the bad guys into scum, okay. She doesn't have the habit of liking married men. No, when Zhou's father and son are gone, she has to reason with her grandpa, so she won't treat her granddaughter so wrongly. People say that being close to the hometown is timid, but for Zhou Mikang and Zhou Jingping, it is timid to be close to the family now. When the car drove into the compound, the hearts of the father and son were tugged. Long Xiangjun, who was driving the car, showed a smile on his stern face. He had a good impression of the father and son during the journey, and he also recognized it. Father's preference for them. When sending them to the Wang's house, he parked the car a little farther away and let them walk there. During this sensitive period, he ran to the Wang's house to show off, and he wasn't that unkind. Originally, he thought that because of the influence, Zhou's father and son would be able to come out after staying for 10 minutes at most, but in the end, they stayed for more than 40 minutes. Not only would he not be unhappy about this, but he also sincerely respected them. Only those who are serious about love can hand over. Wanjia. In the hall, Mr. Zhou, MRS Zhou, Mr. Wang, Mr. Jing, MRS Jing and MRS Ya are pasting the boxes, and Chu Xia is in charge of packing them neatly into bags. In this hour, I have blurred 100, which is 5 more than yesterday. Taking a look at the time, Mr. Zhou said proudly, I never thought that my big thick hand could be so dexterous. Well, it's quite a lot. There's progress, Mr. Wan said while counting. I've pasted 120 this hour, 10 more than yesterday, not as fast as you. Mr. Zhou was speechless, and turned to look at his old lady. How much are you? 130 MRS Zhou reported the count with a proud face. Mine, you haven't asked me yet. Mr. Jing raised his hand eagerly. I have 200 of them, more than you all, ha ha ha. When everyone looked over in amazement, MRS Jing pursed her lips and said, don't listen to his nonsense, it's me and him who are confused, /. Mr. Jing's writing stopped abruptly, and he glared at the old lady. It's annoying, can't you let them praise me, make me happy for a while, and then tell them the truth? That's right. MRS Jing looked at MRS Zhou with a smile. Sister-in-law, do you believe that I let him do more at home now? You can't stop asking how much Baohe and Yulan have lost because of evasion, MRS Zhou said, looking at Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan. I didn't count. Zhao Yulan smiled embarrassedly. I put it in Chu's bag when I finished the paste. I don't know how much I have pasted. Mine too. Lin Bao. He also looked embarrassed. You are afraid that we have no place to put our old faces, so you are in a hurry to pretend. Mrs. Joe looked at Chu Xia. Xia, how much is there in total? We didn't pretend, what you pretended was your parents, report the number. 1002. Chu Xia blinked his big eyes. Grandpa and Grandma, have you been hit? Zhao Yulan hurriedly said, this child, what are the ages of your mother and your father, and what are the ages of your grandparents? Besides, your mother and your father work all over the world. How can you compare this kind of thing with your grandparents and cultural people, son? Literate people's hands are for writing, not for sticking matchboxes. These two are so kind. Mrs. Jing clicked her tongue twice and looked at Mrs. Joe. You are so lucky to have such a good granddaughter-in-law and such an in-law family. Yes, yes, we cherish our blessings. The old lady Joe chuckled. I now feel that even if I can only eat with matchboxes in the future, I will be happy. Mr. Joe waved his hand at his wife. You pull it down, if there is no Yulan and Bao, you will starve to death if you stick a matchbox. What I want is for them to stay with me and let them support me, Mrs. Joe said, looking at Lin Bao and Zhao Yulan. Bao, Yulan, you don't dislike me, do you? Zhao Yulan grinned, of course I don't mind it. Aunt Joe is willing to let us raise her. That's kissing us. I understand the reason. Standing at the door, looking at the group of people in the hall, the happy scene, Zhou Jingping and Zhou Mikang felt that their hearts warmed up immediately. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 295. Make up the second update on the 28th. Mr. Ye, who had already walked outside Zhou's house, was stopped by a cheerful smile. After a long while, he shook his head and returned to his home. A few meters away, the atmosphere of the Ye family and the Zhou family are completely different. Ye Zhonghe, Ye Zhongliang, and Ye Zongjun, the three sons of the Ye family, get together rarely, but because of differences of opinion, no one wants to talk to each other. Among the three daughters-in-law, Chiang Yuxian was not close to Miao Yan Li and Ai Hung, so the three of them and two nannies were sitting there making dumplings, but they were clearly divided into two camps. Ye Zhonghe has only two daughters here, both of whom are married, but the eldest daughter is getting divorced, and the younger daughter, Ye Mairu, has one scandal after another and is kicked out by the Huang family, which makes Ye Zhonghe and his wife happy even if they want to be happy can't get up. Ye Zhongliang and Miao Yan Li have a son and a daughter, but the son just joined the army this year and cannot go home for the new year, while the daughter is married and stays at her husband's house for the new year. Ye Zongjun and Ai Hung had two daughters. The eldest daughter, Ye Mikan, married Song Xiao's younger brother, and the youngest daughter, Ye Mifang, was in her boudoir. Therefore, the three sons and daughters-in-law gathered together, but the grandchildren only had Ye Mairu and Ye Mifang at home to celebrate the new year. In comparison, Ye Mifang became a sweet potato. She moves a finger. This made Ai Hung feel very uncomfortable. The youngest daughter is only 19 years old, and her ability to distinguish between things and wrongs is still a little immature. Therefore, she has always been very strict with her youngest daughter, and she just doesn't want her to be raised too delicately. In the future, if you marry out, you will not be welcomed by your in-laws. Although women's liberation is now being talked about, in her opinion, the difference in physical strength between men and women will inevitably lead to differences in the social division of labor between men and women. They have to shout for equality between men and women, and they have to rely on men outside. Let a man worry about it at home for a long time, which man can bear it? Well, there may be that kind of man who can stand it, but she can't guarantee that her daughter will meet it, so she has always taught her daughter to be self-reliant, but there are a few girls at this age who are willing to do housework. Therefore, now that she has the protection of the old lady, the youngest daughter can be lazy as a matter of course. Miao Yanli and Aiyue Hung walked around quite frequently, and they would go shopping together to buy some things for the house when they were resting. Therefore, at this time, looking at Aiyue Hung's unhappy expression, and thinking about it a little, Miao Yanli roughly guessed what she was thinking, so she lowered her voice and said to Aiyue Hung, "Only once a year. It's okay to let the children play for a while. It's nothing to play this time. The key is that after going back, I will definitely not be able to get along for a long time. Every time I come back for the new year, I will have conflicts with me, saying that I am the stepmother, and her mother is the real mother. It's all the same. Didn't my family blame me before? But now, every time I go home, she kisses me, saying that if I hadn't been strict with her, she would definitely not be the most popular daughter-in-law in her husband's family now. This woman really fell in love with a man. You can understand this truth, so instead of worrying about her making trouble with you now, you should pay attention to what kind of man she likes. Are you the second aunt? What's the idea?" Aiyue Hung looked at her helplessly. "Besides, we live in the garrison, and we are all male soldiers when we go out. She is familiar with many male soldiers. A group of stupid boys, I am not sharp-eyed, how can I tell which one she likes? Then you talk to her, don't always scold her, you know the reason to slap a sweet date, if you keep slapping her, she will rebel." Glancing at her daughter who was laughing with her head up, Aiyue Hung sighed, "She's not as obedient as me Izzy of yours. If she slaps her and gives her a sweet date, she probably won't know who she is. How do you know if you don't try? It's over 20 years old, and you're not a child anymore. If you always treat her like a child, she will definitely not be convinced. Just think about when you were young, if your elders always scolded you, as if you couldn't do anything right, would you feel comfortable and convinced?" Before Miao Yanli could answer, Chiang Yuxian stared at the two of them with an ugly face and asked, "What are you talking about? It's so lively. Just chatting." Aiyue Hung smiled at her, "The children are not obedient, I'm learning from my second sister-in-law." Chiang Yuxian's face became even uglier. "What do you mean?" After a moment of daze, Aiyue Hung knew that Chiang Yuxian was thinking too much. Indeed, her two daughters were both worried enough. Seeing them whispering and hearing her say that, wouldn't it be a misunderstanding? Quickly explained, "Sister-in-law, I am indeed learning from the second sister-in-law. Xiaofang is 20 after the new year, and she usually has 10 sentences waiting for her. I really make her worry to death. You said this if you marry into your husband's family, who can bear it? Mom, I don't have any good points in your eyes." Yamifang looked at Aiyue Hung dissatisfied. "Why can't you learn from grandma and pay more attention to my shining points?" Aiyue Hung asked back, "What is shining on you? For example, I can write well with a pen and sing well, aren't they all shining points?" Aiyue Hung looked at her daughter with a black line on her head. "Is it okay to call your dog like a dog? As for singing, can you sing me a song with a twist? Xiaofang, grandma praised you because she kissed you. You are good everywhere. You can't tell what is a compliment and what is a fact. You think I'm getting close to the child, and you feel uncomfortable." Mrsya looked at Aiyue Hung with a sullen face. "I don't come back a few times a year, and you're not happy if she stays with me for a while? It's not like there's no housework at home, so it's okay to leave her? You think I'm too old to understand, don't you think I'm bullying her and won't make dumplings for you? Aiyue Hung, if you don't want to do it, you can come and sit and talk. With Mama Zhang and Mama Li here, even if you don't help, they can make all the preparations before 10 o'clock. After working in the Ye family for so many years, Mama Zhang and Mama Li both have good eyesight. Of course, they understand that the praise at this time cannot be taken seriously, and it is not their turn to intervene in matters between the masters, so they all hang down. Work with your head, don't say anything." He even compared himself with the nanny at home. It took a lot of effort for Aiyue Hung to suppress her anger, and forced a smile. Mom, how can I dislike Xiao Fang being with you? If you really care about her, I don't mind letting her be by your side every day. Mrsya interrupted her, are you serious? Of course it's true, but... It's fine, it's okay. Mrsya looked at her little granddaughter, Xiao Fang, stay at grandma's house from now on, okay. The word good twitched in her throat, and Yemifang forced herself to swallow it back. She hugged Mrsya's arm flatteringly, Grandma, I know you love me, but if I live here son, it's too far to go to work. Do you think this is good? I will come to see you when you are resting, okay. You can change your job, tell me where you want to go, and let your grandpa transfer it for you. Okay, the old man who had been silent all this time, looked at the old lady angrily, why does this and that happen one after another in this family? As an elder, you must first lead by example and let yourself be more tolerant. How can you teach your children well with such a weakling? No matter who made a mistake, regardless of indiscriminate, you have to protect it. As long as others express a little different opinion, you have to be on the line. You think you are the truth, no one can refute it. You. Mrs's face trembled, it's New Year's Eve, you just arrange me like this, aren't you afraid of thunder? I can't wait for a thunderbolt to strike me. I'm so useless to live like this. Mr. Ye pointed his fingers at his son and daughter-in-law, one of you counts as the other, do you really regard each other as relatives? You are usually busy with your own work, and finally got together during the Chinese New Year, but you can just stare at each other because of the slightest difference of opinion. Zhongliang Zongjun, you used to listen to your elder brother very much. Your elder brother is indeed your role model. Since when did you stop seeing him? Just now, when all of you were sullen and silent, I couldn't sit down and went to Joe's house, but when I got to the door and heard the laughter from other people's house, I didn't have the nerve to go in. In the past, you joked that except for one Zhou Jingping, the other two of the Zhou family were idiots. As for the younger generation, no one can worry about it. But now you look at yourself, which one is better than the sons of the Zhou family, and which of the grandchildren is better than Xiaomi and Xiaoxi of the Zhou family? And that child Xiahua, staying for 2 years is definitely not a bad thing, you count on your fingers, which child of the Ye family can compare with them? Dad, we were wrong. Dad, I'm sorry. Dad, it's all my fault. I shouldn't disrespect elder brother. The 3 sons still respected their father very much. Seeing that their father was really angry, they quickly admitted their mistakes. After all, they were brothers. When the words fell, they really managed to smile away their grievances. Mr. Ye waved his hand, forget it, I don't want to give you an education class for Chinese New Year. Each of you, no matter whether you are really happy today or not, pretend to be happy for me. Other things, wait, let's talk about it in a year. Mom, I have a stomachache. Kiamiru walked out with her slippers on. After the incident with Huang Baoquan, she was kicked out of the Huang family. After all, she was a double-bodied person. Mr. Ye was soft-hearted, so he asked her to return home. Home. How can I lose the pain? After all, it was the flesh that fell from her body. Even if she did such unreliable things, Chiang Yuxian still loved her as always. From the perspective of being a mother, Chiang Yuxian is still affectionate and righteous. I just feel pain in my stomach, Yamiru said with a sad face. Mom, I'm not going to have a miscarriage, can you call Jingzhe here for me, he must have a solution. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 296. The second watch arrives. Zhou Mikang, Chu Xia's father and daughter brought Zhao Yulan to 401, and went straight to Jing Zhe's office. At this time, Chu Xia didn't care if his identity would be revealed. Originally, she was very repulsed by this marriage, and she didn't want others to know about it. Now, after going through all this, she is basically sure that she will be with Zhou Mikang for the rest of her life, so there is nothing to be afraid of. Just after the operation, Jing Zhe was sipping a cup of tea, when he saw Zhou Mikang, who suddenly appeared at the door. He spit out a mouthful of tea. As soon as he was bending over to pour water, the moment he heard the doorbell and raised his head, he felt a heat in his buttocks, and touched his hands back, and fell silent. Seeing Chuxia and Zhou Mikang come in together, Wu Jingbo was also a little dazed. When she came back to her senses, she happened to see Kuakuo touching her mapped butt with a constipated expression on her face. She also sprayed if she couldn't control it, but it's a joke. Standing in the front in early summer, she had seen the situation clearly just now, so she quickly turned around and faced her /U003E. Mom and Dad smiled like a GT Flower 11 CRV7HR #IR, SB #RB up. Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe are kind people, their mouths are tightly pursed, their faces are flushed red. Zhou Mikang glanced at Guo blankly, and then turned to Jing Zhe as if he hadn't found anything. My mother fainted suddenly today, and she needs a full body checkup, and you can arrange it. Okay. Jing Zhe, who was embarrassed and didn't know what to say, quickly got up and looked at Zhao Yulan. Auntie, follow me. Kuakuo winked anxiously at Wu Jingbo. It is really inconvenient for him to follow him in his current appearance. With 2 apprentices, how could he let the teacher run errands? Teacher, let me go, Wu Jingbo said. She was just thinking about the relationship between Chu Xia and these people, so she lost her mind. In fact, she had vaguely guessed the truth. The last time she went to Jing's house, she heard that the mother and daughter were looking for Lin Chuxia, so she told Jing Ji the whole story, and after listening to it carefully, she changed the topic, thinking that the teacher didn't want to. I didn't mention the matter of meddling. But today, when she suddenly saw Chu Xia and Zhou Mikang together, and heard Zhou Mikang call that middle-aged woman's mother, she had some enlightenment. What happened to the Zhou family recently? She knew that the Xiao family and the Zhou family were not dealing with each other, and she also knew that Chu Xia had asked for a wedding leave. Zhou Mikang also got married some time ago, and the truth surfaced after all the incidents were connected. Chu Xia was worried about Zhao Yulan's health, and of course it was impossible to wait in Jing Zhe's office, so she also walked out. Zhou Mikang stopped her. I'm the mother's business, you go to Director Song's. Because of the special circumstances, she didn't dare to come back after the marriage leave. Right now, she should go to the teacher's place to have a look. Thinking that the result will not come out immediately, Chu Xia nodded. I will go to the teacher's place first, and I will look for you later. Listening to the conversation between the two, Wu Jingbo didn't even have to guess. She quickly glanced at Chu Xia and Zhou Mikang, wanting to say congratulations, but she couldn't say it. Song Xiao is very clear about Chu Xia's inability to return to 401 to study, and these days she has asked Jing Zhe to bring the study materials back to Chu Xia, so she has no objection to Chu Fu procrastinating the vacation. On the contrary, after seeing her, the first reaction was to send Wang Jing out, and asked her in a low voice, "Come here now, isn't it dangerous?" There are many words on the bus network. There was a warm current in Chu Xia's heart. Before, she thought the teacher was too serious, but in fact, the teacher is really a warm-hearted person, so she smiled brightly at her. "Teacher, my father-in-law and Zhou Mikang are back." Really, a big smile appeared on the corner of Song Xiao's lips. "That's great, it's great, Yang Kai finally made it through. I don't see how that woman is so pissed." "Which woman?" Chu Xia looked at Song Xiao suspiciously. "Is someone bullying my mother-in-law?" recalling that once she saw Lin Yang Kai was distracted, Her eyes were full of worry. She only thought of her mother-in-law because of what happened to the Zhou family, and the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was not close enough to talk about everything, so she didn't ask any more questions. Now it seems that there should be other reasons besides the Zhou family's affairs. The Zhou family's father and son have already returned, so Song Xiao didn't hide it from her. Xiao Yuan arranged for the house you rented, and the owner is Qin Xianji, your mother-in-law's nemesis. Tell me, can she make your mother-in-law feel comfortable? Do not skip words. Why does the mother-in-law have so many enemies? This thought quickly flashed through Chu Xia's mind. Song Xiao went on to explain, Qin Xianji and Zhu Xingkan are not the same thing. Zhu Xingkan's fight with your mother-in-law is basically a child's heart. When it comes to critical times, she will protect your mother-in-law. Qin Xianji is different, she is an unstoppable enemy. Your mother-in-law told you that Xiaomi's grandpa didn't treat her very well, right? Small. Read the full text of Daqian Chandao. Say a lot of words on the bus network. Chu Xia nodded, well, I know. Qin Xianji is the daughter of Aunt Xiaomi's family. Aunt Xiaomi married a better family than Grandma Xiaomi, so Grandma Xiaomi made all the children in the family to curry favor with the children of Aunt Xiaomi. It's not like you don't know your mother-in-law's temper, so how could she curry favor? Once he had a conflict with Qin Xianji, and when he got angry, he slapped Qin Xianji across the face. Coincidentally, it happened to be seen by the boy Qin Xianji likes. Qin Xianji felt ashamed, so she didn't say anything at the time. Later, when your mother-in-law left your aunt's house, she and her brother and sister locked up your mother-in-law. He went to the house and beat him up hard. Afterwards, no one sought justice for your mother-in-law, and since then, your mother-in-law never went to Aunt Xiaomi's house again. As a result, when they reached the age of marriage, the two bumped into each other again. The man Qin Xianji is marrying now is your mother-in-law first. Thinking that Chu Xia is a junior, it is inconvenient for Song Xiao to tell the details, but she also hopes that Chu Xia will tell Zhou Mikang about it, so that she can at the right time, to find a place for an old friend. He omitted the process and said, anyway, after she married, she always regarded your mother-in-law as a thorn in her side. For so many years, your mother-in-law and her can run into each other when they return to their parents' home during the spring festival. At other times, they basically have no intersection. Unexpectedly, after learning about what happened to the Zhou family this time, she deliberately wanted to see your mother-in-law's jokes, so she teamed up with Xiaobing to deceive Zilb and your uncle. These days, she has to go to the house to inspect it every day, and she doesn't drive anyone away, but relying on her status as the owner, she forces your mother-in-law to wipe the floor and glass. If I didn't want to visit your mother-in-law that day on vacation, I didn't know that she would fall into Qin Xianji's hands. Hey, that woman finally got her way. Mother-in-law didn't leave there because she was worried that Qin Xianji would throw everyone out, right? There are a lot of words on the bus network. After thinking about it for a while, Chu Xia understood why Lin Yangkai didn't hide in Wanjia. There are very few vacant houses like this. Given the situation of the Zhou family at that time, being kicked out meant sleeping on the street. Stay in a hotel? How many days can I live with the little money in hand? That's right, Qin Xianji warned that if your mother-in-law dares to avoid it, she will immediately take back the house. Song Xiao sighed, Chu Xia, your mother-in-law is really not easy. Teacher, I see. Chu Xia couldn't understand why Song Xiao told her this, and immediately said, my father-in-law has probably passed by now, and when my mother's examination is finished, Zhou Mikang and I will also go there immediately. If that woman is here, I will help my mother-in-law out. What's wrong with your mother? Song Xiao only thought that she came to find her because of the return of Zhou's father and son, but she didn't expect that there was something wrong with Lin Yangkai's in-laws. Probably some anemia. Chu Xia described the situation at that time in detail to Song Xiao, and after hearing her finish, Song Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. I can't bear such a hard body. Don't worry, as long as you take good care of her, your mother should be fine. I know, my mother has always been in good health, and she will definitely be fine in this age, and there is no pollution. Chu Xia really didn't have much to worry about. Let's go. I'll go and have a look with you. Song Xiao got up and pulled Chu Xia out. After this matter is over, come back quickly. Although theoretical knowledge is important, practice is the most important thing. Chu Xia quickly nodded. Teacher, I know, I'll come to work right away when my home is settled. Thinking that her parents have sold the house, she sighed slightly. Originally, she wanted to go back with them, but now it seems that it is difficult. Song Xiao thought she was still worried about the Zhou family's affairs, so she said, don't worry, everything is over. Teacher. After hesitating for a while, Chu Xia still said what was in his heart. I know that my vacation has been exceeded by a lot, and I also know that I should put all my mind on my studies now. However, my parents only have me as a daughter, and they have been living here for me during this period of time. After the matter is over, they still have to return to their hometown. However, they have already sold the house in their hometown, and now I even wonder if they have sold the dilapidated old house, and I don't feel relieved if they don't go back. After waiting for a while, seeing that Song Xiao remained silent, Chu Xia had no choice but to fight again. Teacher, I promise, as long as my parents are settled, I will work harder. Seeing that Chu Xia was a little anxious, Song Xiao laughed. I'm not that unreasonable. I was thinking, why not let your parents stay here? I don't have the ability to support them now. Chu Xia smiled wryly. They are all very proud people. There is a difference in family status between my family and Zhou's family. He is most afraid of people saying that they rely on their daughters as parasites. Now Zhou, the matter at home is over, and they won't stay sighing. Chu Xia continued, actually, what I dislike the most is that they go back and receive too much criticism. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 297. Supplement number 15. Update 1. Lin Xiahua searched for a few days but couldn't find her daughter. Fortunately, she had the sponsorship fee from Lu Zhenqiang on her body. Thinking about the hard life of hiding in the haystacks when she came here, Lin Xiahua didn't dare to stay in Sidia any longer. She had already figured out that Chu Xia didn't care about her life, and Zhao Yulan had completely given up on her, so it would probably be useless to find her again. After weighing again and again, she embarked on the journey back home by herself. One day husband and wife, 100 days of grace. She believes that Zhao Yufeng is not that kind of unfeeling. As long as she begs hard, he should forgive her. As for the parents-in-law, as long as the husband agrees to reconcile with her, he will not force their family to reunite. As for her daughter Zhao Qian, of course she was worried, but she was unfamiliar with the place here, so what could she do? The Zhou family is too busy to take care of themselves now. How can they still have the ability to help her? Furthermore, with Chu Xia's dead girl blocking her, neither the Zhou family nor the boy surnamed Jing could help her. As far as my daughter's personality is concerned, she probably won't suffer a lot. Besides, even if she suffers, marrying a man here is better than marrying into the village. After thinking about it this way, Lin Xiahua embarked on the journey home. First stop, I went to my mother's house. She hoped that her natal family would give her support, so that she could stand upright and have confidence in front of Zhao Yufeng. It's a pity that her parents wanted to support her, but her brother and sister-in-law didn't mean that. Her parents couldn't support her when they were old, so she had no choice but to give up the idea of borrowing money from her natal family. Xiahua, go back and beg Yufeng. I have been with him for so many years. There is no credit but hard work. This is my age. What's the point of kicking you out of Zhao's house? Lin Xiahua's mother taught while wiping her tears. Daughter, as well as your parents-in-law, you should give them more sweetness. Mother knows that you are so strong, but you don't have a son. If you don't pamper your parents-in-law to get some benefits, what will you do when you get old? I still have Kian, Lin Xiahua insisted. You don't know where Kian is now. What if she meets someone bad? It would be nice not to hate you in this life. How can I support you? Hearing the eldest daughter-in-law criticizing Sang Huai outside, Mrs. Lin waved her hand. Go back quickly, nowhere is as good as your own home. Helpless, Lin Xiahua had no choice but to pack her bags and go to Dalian village. Knowing that Zhao Yufeng was kind-hearted, she intentionally left the house unwashed and uncombed, disheveled. After her figure disappeared, her sister-in-law went back to the house and reported to her mother, "Mother, the fourth sister is gone." Well, I see. Lin Xiahua's mother was picking up the solace of her shoes, pulled a long thread to the end, and raised the needle to grind it on her hair. Looking at the eldest daughter-in-law, "I'm letting you take the blame, alas. How can a mother not love her daughter, but she has such a temper. Otherwise, she can really stay here and not leave. The daughter who is married, stays at her mother's house, and won't let her go. People joke to death? Me, this is for her to live a good life. If she is not stupid, even if she knows what happened today, she can understand why she did this." Knowing that her mother-in-law is letting her take the blame, but also not letting herself feel that she is cruel, Lin Xiahua's sister-in-law Wang Lan nodded quickly. "Of course my mother is doing it for the sake of my fourth sister, I know." Mrs. Lin poked a hole in the sole of her shoe with a needle, pulled it over, and sighed, "In addition to her own good, I also have to guard against that girl Kian. If she is really promising, we can't make her hate this family, do you understand?" "Understood, mother is thinking about the grandchildren, of course I understand." Wang Lan tried the head of the Kong fawningly. "Mother, do you want to add more fire? It's a bit cold. Let's go on, it's almost noon." Mrs. Lin put down the solace of her shoes and got off the Kong. "No matter how good the girl is, she belongs to someone else, so I can't break up my family for the sake of my girl." "What mother said is that you said that Xiahua's sister-in-law sold the big house and the small house for a daughter. Isn't that just a bad mind? It's cheaper to keep those, and it's cheaper to hire a son-in-law. You say, they're all going to prison, and they're going to spend all these things." Mrs. Lin snorted, shook her head in disdain and got off the Kong. When Chu Xia and Song Xiao found Zhao Yulan and her party, halfway through the inspection. Song Xiao is proficient in traditional Chinese medicine, so she helped Zhao Yulan feel her pulse, and said with a smile, "I'm just too tired. Remember these 2 months, don't stay up late, and eat nutritious food. Although it's okay now, if you don't pay attention, it will really hurt. It's a big problem." "What's the problem?" Lin Bao he asked worriedly. "The problem of getting seriously ill," Song Xiao said with a serious face. "Don't think I'm scaring you, what I said is true." Lin Bao he hurriedly said, "Yes, I will watch her, thank you Director Song." Chu Xia saw the tiredness on Song Xiao's face, and said, "Teacher, go and do your work. After the inspection, I will send you the results. Please prescribe a prescription for my mother." "Okay, I'll go back and wait for you." She was really tired after the operation. If it wasn't for Lin Yangkaiu, and she really cared about this student, she wouldn't have pushed through. At this moment, Wu Jingbo finally had time to talk to Chu Xia, so he poked her and said in a low voice, "You're really hiding it. Lu Meijun doesn't even know that you are married to Captain Zhou." "I wanted to tell her, but I couldn't open it." Chu Xia smiled bitterly. "After a few days of busy work, I will come back to work, and when the time comes, I will make amends to her. I live in your dormitory now, and I added an extra bed in." Wu Jingbo grinned, "From now on, we will be roommates." Chu Xia was a little stunned. She remembered that Wu Jingbo was assigned to a dormitory with that guy named Rao Shui who always targeted her team members. In a dormitory, Zhang Erniu was squeezed out. I quarreled with Rao Shui. Wu Jingbo saw Chu Xia's doubts, and curled her lips. I really didn't realize before that she is so narrow-minded. Just because I said a few good things for you, she against me about the people in the joint dormitory. In order to squeeze me out, I bought delicious food every day to please the big guy. I was really too lazy to argue with her in such a boring way, so I applied to be transferred to your dormitory. Chu Xia suddenly said, so it was for me, thank you. Wu Jingbo waved her hand, you don't need to thank me for this. It's her fault. If you like it, go after it. If you can't catch up, don't blame others, right? Of course, she doesn't know that you are with the leader. If she knows, probably crazy. Crazy is crazy. Actually, I also hate dealing with this kind of person, but sighed. Chu Xia spread his hands helplessly, what can I do if I meet you? I don't think she really likes it at all. These days, when she learned that the Zhou family had encountered such a thing, what did she do? The first thing she did was to write a letter of report against the head of Zhou and Yu. Relationship is unclear. The corners of Chu Xia's mouth twitched, who is this? The Zhou family has fallen into such a situation, and she still goes to step on it. Could it be that she loves too deeply and wants to be trampled to death? I was still worried about how you would face this when you came back. I never thought. Wu Jingbo shook her head with a smile, it's really interesting. By the way, there is one person you have to thank. Who is it? Lin Xiaoran, she beat Rao Shui because of her report letter. Wu Jingbo grinned as she said, the beaten Rao Shui didn't dare to come to work for 3 days. Of course, Lin Xiaoran was also locked up for 3 days. Confinement. I don't quite understand. How did you know that Rao Shui wrote a report letter? If you don't want people to know, unless you don't do anything, didn't she put a cardboard when she wrote the letter, and if there was something good to do, she took it and restored it, and then read the whole content? Chu Xia really didn't know what to say, but she felt a very warm feeling in her heart. She was not surprised that Xiaoxian was protecting her, and she was not surprised that Lu Meijun was protecting her, even she could imagine that Zhang Ernia was protecting her, but she never imagined that Wu Jingbo and Lin Xiaoran would also be protecting her. But if you think about it carefully, you will feel that it is reasonable. Wu Jingbo looks quiet, but she has a sense of justice in her bones. Lin Xiaoran has always been the embodiment of justice. Where there is injustice, there is her fist. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 298. The Zhou family rented a house in the suburbs. Lin Yangkai was squatting on the ground, rubbing the gray stains on the concrete floor. Liang Xiaohong was in charge of the stairs, Zhou Huikang and Zhou Zikang were in charge of the windows, Zhou Gangping and Zhou Shanping were in charge of cleaning the rags. In the middle of the house, stood a woman about 50 years old, with thick eyebrows and thin eyes, short hair reaching the ears, wearing a navy blue skirt, standing around like a supervisor. She was Qin Xianji. Her eyes fell on the place where Lin Yangkai had just wiped. There was a thumb-sized gray stain there. Qin Xianji stepped forward, stepped on the rag, and by the way also stepped on Lin Yangkai's hand. If your own house, you fooling around like that? Even though Lin Yangkai was not loved by her mother when she was young, she had never been so angry. The veins on her forehead were bulging, and after that, she slowly withdrew her hand and asked in a flat voice, what makes you dissatisfied, gone? Behind you. Qin Xianji took a step back, pointing at the dust with her toes, can't you see such a big piece of dust? Lin Yangkai turned around and rubbed vigorously at the lump of dust. After a moment, she looked up at Qin Xianji, this is the dead dust in your house. If you have the ability, wipe it off and show me. If you don't want to live here, I don't force it. Qin Xianji raised her eyebrows and smiled, I've said it many times, we have finished renovating this house, and we have never lived in it. It is a new house. At that time, I rented it to you because you were homeless, and I was moved with compassion, but if you didn't take good care of this house, I would rather not rent it. Anyway, I don't need the money. He had to listen to such threatening words so many times a day that Lin Yangqiu no longer reacted angrily to such words. Anyway, I wipe everywhere, so I simply move a small stool. Facing the mass of ash, grind slowly. Hey! Are you working like this? Qin Xiangji was dissatisfied again. Zhou Zikang and Zhou Huikang looked at each other, dropped the rag in their hands, and jumped out of the window. Liang Xiaohong, Zhou Gangping, and Zhou Shanping also put down their work and surrounded them. Seeing this posture, Qin Xiangji was not afraid. What are you doing? Are you trying to bully the few? I rented the house to you, and I am still guilty? If you dare to touch my finger, try it. Zhou Zikang didn't even look at Qin Xiangji, and stepped forward to help Lin Yangqiu. Mom, let's go to the hotel first. Zhou Huikang hurriedly said, Uncle, my classmate's house has an empty house, but there are only 2 rooms. No, let's move there to open up the shop. The conditions are almost better than listening to the dog barking every day. What did you say? Qin Xiangji poked Zhou Huikang's finger. It's kind of you to say it again. Let's just say, you are from a similar family anyway. Why do you look down on people like a dog? No, I really insult the dog by saying this. At least the dog knows who to kiss. How about you? You and my uncle are still relatives. Treating her like this, aren't you afraid of a thunderbolt? I tell you. Now that you are still standing here, it is not that God wants to forgive you, but that he wants to wait for multiple crimes and punishment. Send you straight to hell. Knowing that Qin Xiangji was extremely superstitious, Zhou Huikang deliberately frightened her. Sure enough, after hearing what Zhou Huikang said, Qin Xiangji's outstretched hand paused in mid-air, and quickly glanced around. Seeing this, Liang Xiaohong hurriedly added fuel to the flames. Sister Qin, don't believe in retribution. Besides, this kind of thing is better to believe it or not, and there is no big mistake in being careful. At this time, Qin Xiangji had already come to her senses. She hated Lin Yangqiu for entering the country. She finally got such a good opportunity. She was not willing to let go. She immediately chuckled. If you want to talk about retribution, I only see that she has already suffered retribution. Do you think I will erase all the dirty things she did to me before with such nonsense? Are you too naive? Zhou Gangping sighed softly. Sister-in-law, you are being wronged every day for us these days. I think if this continues, she will only get worse. Let's move. Xioxi is right, we can go to the hotel first, and later plan slowly. Yes, sister-in-law, we feel bad to see you suffer so much for us. Zhou Shanping is a man of few words, but he is a man of action. After speaking, he turned and went back to his room to pack his things by himself. Of course I don't mind if you want to move out, but I won't refund a cent of the rent. It was clearly signed in black and white at that time. Qin Xiangji simply stood at the door and greeted her younger brother Qin Xiangjiang, who came with her. Little brother, come and check their luggage, don't let them take our stuff. Lin Yangqiu looked at Qin Xiangji indifferently. Do you think that our Zhou family will be like this from now on? She found that the biggest change brought about by this period of time was that her temper had improved, and she would have been furious before, but at this moment, although she is angry, she can still reason with others. I don't know how Zhou Jingping will feel after seeing her like this. After being married to Zhou's family for so many years, she has been well protected. Therefore, her character is always the same as when she was a girl. Unexpectedly, she changed her temper when she got old. If you want to say that, you should let the mother-in-law try it, but the mother-in-law is more anxious and violent than her. Oops, at what time did she still lose her mind thinking about this? Lin Yangqiu couldn't help but stroked her forehead and burst out laughing. Qin Xiangji looked at her, but thought that she was overstimulated by herself. She was a little nervous, and she felt excited. so she followed Lin Yangkai's words and asked, "Why, do you think the Zhou family can be like before?" "Not just like before, but even better than before." Lin Yangkai squinted at her. "From now on, I will always look at you with this look, understand?" Qin Ziyangji leaned leisurely at the door. "Okay, I'll wait, but for now, you should pass this pass first." "Qin Ziyangji, didn't your mother teach you etiquette? For you, do you still need to talk about that?" "No," Lin Yangkai smiled and waved her hands. "I never expected you to be polite to me. If you really understood those, you wouldn't do what you did today. I just want to kindly remind you that your movement is the signature movement of a prostitute in a brothel, leaning on a building to sell a smile. It is your current posture. Your standing is quite standard." "Nonsense," Qin Ziyangji said so, but immediately stood up straight and stopped leaning on the doorframe. When it was time to pack their luggage, everyone realized how unrealistic it was to move out immediately. All kinds of luggage need to be transported away, and it takes money to stay in a hotel. Even if you live in Zhou Huikang and Zhou Shui's house, you can't live without money, but after paying the rent, they have no money left. Sure enough, it is very important to keep your mouth shut. After the pleasant words are finished, what they receive is double the humiliation. Seeing everyone returning to clean up again, Qin Ziyangji's lips curled up into a sarcasm smile. From now on, rubbing and kneading circles depends on her mood. "Lin Yangkai, you never thought that one day you would end up like this field?" Seeing Lin Yangkai knelt there with a face full of humiliation and moved forward a little bit to wipe the concrete floor so that it was shiny new, Qin Ziyangji's face was almost contorted with laughter. There is no hardship that people can't bear, but are they willing to throw away the household things that have been passed down from generation to generation? If they really dared to throw it, she would really dare to pick it up. This is the second reason why she tried her best to humiliate them. One of them, of course, is to avenge the humiliation that Lin Yangkai brought her back then. Josei Kang and Zhou Huikang glanced back at Lin Yangkai from time to time while they were cleaning the window. They were so guilty that they would die. If it wasn't for their impulsiveness, how could they have brought things to this point? When things got to this point, Qin Ziyangji had already told everyone that she wanted to deal with Lin Yangkai. If they dared to take her job and help her, then don't blame her for not being honest enough. "Biological," she said, "they don't have any ability to resist. Man is a knife and I am fish, that is the case." Suddenly there was a clear sound of parking outside the door, and everyone's movements froze. They wanted to get up, but Qin Ziyangji's voice sounded, "I'm going home in a while, you guys should quickly clean up the things I'm not satisfied with. I believe, you don't want to see me either, right?" What she wanted was for the guests who came to visit Zhou's family to see them in their most embarrassing condition. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 299. As soon as it arrives. Those who can come at this time must have a certain relationship with the Zhou family. After thinking about it, I can understand the current situation of the Zhou family, and what else can't save face. After thinking this through, Lin Yangkai, who had hurriedly thrown the rag to stand up, squatted back slowly, took the rag and continued mopping the floor. What Qin Ziyangji wants is for her to lose face in front of everyone, then she will satisfy her, or if she feels that she has lost enough face, she won't bother to bother. The people who had already stopped their movements, saw Lin Yangkai like this, and returned to their positions one by one. Now they can't act emotionally, they can only act in line with Lin Yangkai. The first time Qin Ziyangji came to the door was the second day after they moved here, and they were discussing what kind of scattered work to supplement the family. Qin Ziyangji brought her younger brother Qin Xiangzhang in swaggeringly, and the first sentence was, "Lin Yangkai, this house belongs to our family, if you rent my house, you must take good care of it, otherwise, I can take it back at any time. Then, as if ordering a nanny, he asked everyone to wipe here and there. When a person intends to target a person, there is nowhere to tell the truth. Zhou Shanping and Zhou Zikang also understood the real meaning of the clause in the rent contract that if the tenant does not take good care of the house, the landlord has the right to take back the house at any time and deduct 30% of the liquidated damages. At that time, they took it for granted that they did not take care of the house in order to destroy the rent, but did not expect that everything is targeted. If this matter is brought to Mr. Wan or Mr. Jing, justice can be found for them. However, these two families have already helped the Zhou family enough. Everyone's thinking is that they can bear it. Just bear it. Therefore, every time I go to see the old man and the old lady, everyone who has the same aspirations only announces good news. Right now, Lin Yangkai only hoped that it was her elder sister Lin Yanmei or her good friend Song Xiao who came here. They were the only ones who had been here since they moved here. Qin Xiangzhang, who was idly standing outside the door smoking a cigarette, saw the girl getting off the car, his eyes straightened. The same black trousers and blue jacket. Wearing it on her, why does it feel like a fairy? Please forgive his poor vocabulary, it is already the limit to be able to think of the word fairy. Seeing the man pushing the door down from the other side, Qin Xiangjiang's face changed suddenly. He threw the cigarette on the ground in a hurry, and ran into the house. Okay, let's do it like this for today. While talking, she dragged Qin Xiangji out. It all happened so suddenly. Everyone didn't understand what he was doing, including Qin Xiangji, and Zhou Mikang and Chu Xia were already standing at the door in a daze. On the way, Chu Xia had already reported to Zhou Mikang what Song Xiao had said, so at this moment, everyone was busy with their own activities like a school cleaning. Zhou Mikang was not too surprised. He just looked at Qin Xiangji, who was standing in the middle of the room with a surprised expression. He snorted coldly. Mom Chu Xia hurried to Lin Yangkai and helped her up. Where is Dad? Isn't Dad here? It was because she knew that Zhou Jingping had come early, so she was not in a hurry, but waited for Zhou Mikang to come in together, but she did not expect that what she saw was such a situation. Xiaomi is back, Lin Yangkai felt as if she was in a dream, and even pinched her own thigh quietly. Zhou Gangping threw down a rag that was being washed, ran to Zhou Mikang in 2 or 3 steps, grabbed his arm, felt the real heat, and asked in a trembling voice, "When did you come back?" Taking advantage of everyone's chaos, Qin Xiangzhang dragged Qin Xiangji and ran out, but he knew that Zhou Mikang's evil star was so powerful that he could really beat his sister to death. With Zhou Mikang's ability, it is a good thing to stop them, but he just glanced at them and didn't bother to talk to them anymore. His father left 3 hours earlier than him and hasn't arrived yet. The focus of his attention now is here. As for the pair of siblings, it's not too late to settle accounts after autumn. Just when everyone turned from surprise to panic, worrying whether Zhou Jingping was ambushed on the road, there was another sound of parking outside, and Lin Yangkai was the first to rush out. As expected, it was Zhou Jingping who got out of the car. "Where did you go? You almost scared us to death, do you know that?" Regardless of everyone's watching, Lin Yangkai hugged Zhou Jingping and cried loudly. Liang Xiaohong quietly wiped away her tears. During this period of time, everyone is having a hard time, but the most difficult one is the sister-in-law. For them, the sister-in-law has endured to the extreme, and she probably has reached her limit. Seeing her elder brother now, naturally it collapsed. Zhou Jingping didn't know what was going on here, and only thought his wife was doing this because of the fear these days, so he patted her on the back and smiled. "How grown up, you still cry like this, and you are not afraid of the jokes of the younger generation. Let's go into the house and talk." After he said this, Lin Yangkai realized that his daughter-in-law was still there, and immediately let go of her husband, head drooping and blushing, and walked into the house. It was rare to see his wife look like a little girl, and Zhou Jingping regretted what he had just said. After teasing him, he hurriedly took 2 steps and hugged his wife's shoulders. The expected resistance did not appear, and Zhou Jingping's expression was a little surprised. He knew his wife's personality too well. According to the past, when he gave her the step, she would throw him away immediately, and then criticize her again. He said a few words, but this time, he didn't. "Dad, where have you been?" Zhou Mikang asked as soon as he entered the door. Zhou Jingping handed a file bag in his hand to his son. "This is the reinstatement notice for me and you and the return certificate of our house. On the way here, I was stopped by Mr. Long, so I went to go through these procedures first." The action is really fast enough. Zhou Gangping couldn't help talking to himself. At the same time, there was some anticipation in his eyes. The notice of reinstatement of his elder brother and nephew arrived, so the notice of reinstatement for them will probably come soon. Arrive. This is. Seeing the rag bucket on the ground, Zhou Jingping asked suspiciously, "Are you cleaning?" Lin Yangkai's emotions had calmed down, and she said, "This house belongs to Qin Zionji." Chu Xia hurriedly added, "Dad, when we entered the door, Mom, second uncle, second aunt, third uncle, and big brother were being forced by a woman and a man to clean up." "Leave this to me." Zhou Mikang put down the file bag in his hand, and looked at Zhou Jingping seriously. "I'll handle this woman, Dad, don't interfere." "Okay." Zhou Jingping hesitated and agreed to his son. "It's better to be my son." Lin Yangkai finally saw a smile on his face. "As far as your forgiving and forgiving way of dealing with others, I really can't believe it." What his wife said was the truth, so Zhou Jingping scratched his head in embarrassment. Sometimes, he has more womanly kindness than his son, but some people really can't be kind to them. The more kind you are, the more he feels. "Hello bully. Let's move today." Lin Yangkai showed a disgusted expression. "I don't want to stay here any longer." Zhou Jingping nodded happily. "Okay, let's clean up now. Except for bedding and clothes, nothing else has been unpacked," Lin Yangkai said as she got up and walked to her own room. "It will be ready soon." It was obvious that she really didn't want to stay any longer. Zhou Gangping sighed softly. "Brother, sister-in-law, these days are really not a human life. That woman must not be lightly forgiven." "That's right, brother. That woman is too insignificant," Zhou Shanping also said. Even the always honest third brother said that his wife must have really suffered humiliation, so Zhou Jingping looked at his son. "Xiaomi, let Dad do this. It is Dad's responsibility to protect your mother." After staring at his father for a long time, Zhou Mikang nodded. "Okay." The Zhou family has been rehabilitated, so when they move back, they will naturally not rely on themselves to add relatives and friends like they did when they moved out. Su Zhenghong transferred 10 transport vehicles directly from the division, plus a company of soldiers to help. In less than a month, the house was not dirty. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the whole house basically returned to its original state. Of course, Mr. Zhou and Mrs. Zhou also moved back. Zhao Yulan, who hadn't been able to intervene until now, stood there with an uncomfortable expression on her face. She was found to be slightly anemic, so she was banned from even casual tidying, which made her feel like she was a waste and a burden. A feeling of, "Yulan, what do you mean by making such an expression?" Mrs. Zhou has been with Zhao Yulan for so long, and she knows her character very well, so she pulled her to sit beside her, and joked, "Do you think it's too late? They are so clumsy that they can't catch your eyes. The soldiers who helped have already left, and now only the Zhou family is left to deal with some trivial matters." "No, no," Zhao Yulan waved her hands anxiously. "At a time like this, I don't do anything, and I really don't feel good about it. The most important thing for you now is to take good care of your body, otherwise, you will have to watch others work and worry." Thinking that Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe were discussing going back to their hometown in the afternoon, Mrs. Zhou sighed. Listen to auntie, stay here for now, and after you've recovered your body, I won't stop you wherever you want to go. Auntie, my father, my mother, and my elder brother and sister-in-law must be thinking about our affairs. If we don't go back, they won't be relieved even if they receive a letter reporting safety. Didn't you insist on leaving because you were worried that Chusia would not be taken seriously? Mrs. Joe's expression suddenly became serious. I have to listen to the truth, otherwise, my aunt will be really angry with you. Auntie, no, really not, we've been together for so long, we've figured out what character you, Uncle Joe and Granny Chuxia have, even if we've been living here, you won't look down on us, but, I am thinking about my parents, they are getting old, I am really worried. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 300. The second watch arrives. When Zhao Yulan said this, Mrs. Joe couldn't force her to stay, so she discussed, I won't stop you if you want to go back, but the house is sold, where will you live when you go back? I know you still have a hut, but you don't know what your current physical condition is, how can you live in that kind of damp room? Otherwise, wait a few more days, we will send someone to buy the house back, and everything will be done quickly, and you and Baohi will go back. Okay. Auntie, don't buy back the house we sold. They saved our life, so we will buy it again. It's not appropriate. Baohi and I have made plans to live in Gangshun's house first. Both of their children have come out to serve in the army, and we are panicking. It just so happens that we go to accompany them. Our old house was actually not damp, but there were too few windows, and the room was a bit dark. Baohi and I thought about breaking down the windows and replacing them with glass windows before it was too cold in winter, so that the room would be brighter. You child, why are you so stubborn? The old lady Joe sighed helplessly. When the Joe family was in trouble, you sold the house and came to accompany us through the difficulties. When the Joe family was rehabilitated, you went back to live that little black house. Do you want someone to break the Joe family's backbone? No, Zhao Yulan waved her hands anxiously. Auntie, why don't we go back to my mother's house to stay with my parents, and find out if there is anyone selling a house? Do you think it will work? Yulan, if we said that we treated you and Baohi well in the past because you were the parents of Chusia, and we just fulfilled our obligations as in-laws. Now, we really treat you and Baohi as members of the Joe family. I with your uncle, I love you and Baohi as my own sons and daughters. You are also a mother. If you let yourself live a good life and let Chusia live a hard life, how would you feel in your heart? Auntie, After hesitating, Zhao Yulan looked at the old lady Joe. I'm really not used to living here with Baohi. We are used to farming, and we are also used to waking up to the sound of roosters crowing in the morning. We are both young. If we don't reach the retirement age, if we stay here, we will feel that we are useless. In fact, both of us were reluctant to leave Chusia, and discussed privately whether we could rent a house here and support ourselves by pasting matchboxes. But then we gave up on the idea. If we both did, Chusia will not feel good, and neither will you. Let's do nothing. Just waiting to eat, we really can't live. Auntie, I promise you that I will have a baby in early summer. Baohi and I lived here to help take care of the children. At that time, if you want to drive me away, I won't leave you. Knowing that Zhao Yulan's words were mixed with truth and falsehood. There was only one purpose, and she didn't want to become a burden to eat with her daughter, so the old lady Joe sighed, forget it, I won't force you, go back if you want. It's unrighteous for us to forcefully buy the house back. In this case, just as you said, go back and inquire, and buy a house first to make do with it. Turn around and let Xiaomi build a new one for you. As for whether to build it with Chusia's grandma or in your original village, you and Baohi should discuss it carefully. Well, I'll listen to my aunt knowing that it would hurt her feelings to refuse any further, Zhao Yulan readily agreed. The old lady Zhou still felt a little regretful. True friendship is found in adversity. What Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan did when the Zhou family was down, fully demonstrated their noble personalities. Such in-laws are really hard to find with lanterns. However, through this period of getting along, she also knew that although this couple was born in poverty, they were extremely arrogant in their bones. If they were really forced to stay, they probably would not be happy. Then it's better to let nature take its course, or, when Chu Xia has a baby and they are hooked by their grandson, they will really stay. At this time, everyone had packed up everything and went to Jing's house for dinner. The two nannies in the family went home separately after the Zhou family's accident, and Zhu Xingkan volunteered to take care of the dinner with her, Mrs. Li and Mrs. Wan's Mrs. Yin. It was Mr. Wan who opened the door. Looking into the hall again, the expressions on everyone's faces are wonderful. Jing Monian and Jing Zhe were rolling the skin at high speed with a rolling pin. Zhu Xingkan, Old Man Jing, Old Lady Jing, Mrs. Li, and Mrs. Yin couldn't keep up with their speed. Just now I also packed it, Mr. Wan explained. Everyone. Zhao Yulan is a restless person. As soon as she enters the door, she immediately rinses the bathroom, and after washing her hands, she goes to the table to help. After Lin Yangqiu saw Zhu Xingkan, all sorts of feelings came to her heart. She just stood there in a daze, and was dragged to the bathroom by Liang Xiaohong to wash her hands, and then she came back to her senses, and couldn't help but smiled wryly. Xiaohong, you said I used to fight her so badly. Huan, is there something wrong with your brain? This is how you get along, Liang Xiaohong smiled. If you don't believe me, just look at it, and you two will quarrel when you meet again later. No, Lin Yangqiu smiled into the mirror. This time, their family is kind to the Zhou family, and I will let her in from now on. Liang Xiaohong smiled non-committally, dried her hands and left the bathroom. It's not that Chu Xia didn't want to help. As soon as she moved her foot, she was stopped by Zhou Mikang. Don't make trouble. You're just making trouble. Chu Xia's big eyes flickered, and he was in a daze. You should be blocking me because you can't roll the skin or wrap it, right? Isn't it just to find someone who is at the bottom? Ah, I will cooperate with you. Zhou Mikang lowered his voice, gritted his teeth and said, you were mad at me when I came back. After a moment of stunned, he realized that this person was showing extreme guilt, and Chu Xia immediately lost his courage. Brother, Zhou Mikang is going to roll the skin. Okay, Captain Zhou, come. Jing Zhe stopped, got up and gave up his seat. Zhou Mikang's body was obviously stiff, but who is he? Will he admit defeat? I'll make your back. Immediately dragged Chu Xia expressionlessly to the bathroom to wash his hands. Could it be that I guessed wrong? Chu Xia glanced at him wonderingly, washed his hands obediently, found an empty seat and sat down, but kept his eyes on Zhou Mikang's movements. I saw him sitting in the same position as Jing Zhe just now, taking a look at Jing Mo Nian's movements, and also picked up a dough, rolling it while turning. When the head of Zhou pushed a polygon in front of Chu Xia, and calmly picked up a dough, Chu Xia was stunned. Head, can you not pretend to be 13? At dinner, everyone had a plate of dumplings in front of each other, and only the head of the group, Zhi had a plate of noodles. Noodle. Noodle? In short, not dumplings. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 301. As soon as the update arrives, the next chapter is very late, the watch is waiting, let's read it tomorrow. Chu Xia and Zhou Mikang had already obtained their marriage certificate and held a wedding banquet. At this time, it was naturally not easy to go back to Wanjia with Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe. After leaving the gate of Jing's house, everyone exchanged greetings and parted ways. After walking away from the boss, Zhao Yulan stopped to look back, and sighed insignificantly. Lin Baohe took his wife's hand and squeezed it comfortingly. He is a father, so it's not easy to talk about such things, but it doesn't mean he doesn't understand. However, in front of Mr. Wan, he couldn't say anything, so he held his wife's hand and walked forward. Mr. Wan only thought that they were going to leave and couldn't bear Chu Xia, so he laughed and said, "If you don't want to, I will stay forever. With you guys by my side, I couldn't be happier." Zhao Yulan smiled and said, "As long as Uncle Wan doesn't think we are annoying." "Are you really planning to stay?" Old man Wan turned his head in surprise. How could he stay before? Both husband and wife insisted on going back, saying that they were afraid that old man Zhao and Mrs. Zhao would not be at ease. "Stay here for now," Zhao Yulan explained embarrassingly. "Aunt Zhou also talked to me, and I discussed it with Bao He. Let the Zhou family buy us a house in our hometown before we go back." "Uncle Wan, so it's not that we are greedy for money?" Mr. Wan interrupted her with a smile. "You are thinking of taking this opportunity to let the Zhou family repay your help, so that they don't feel indebted to you, right?" Lin Bao He quickly answered, "Uncle Wan. In fact, the house was built by the Zhou family. When the Zhou family encountered difficulties, it was completely appropriate for us to sell the house to help. The Zhou family did not owe any money at all. Our love. However, although there are some truths that are very clear, if you really do that, everyone will feel uncomfortable. Outsiders will say that the Zhou family treats us badly, and at the same time, they will also say that our family is not good. No status. So, after thinking about it, we still accepted Aunt Zhou's arrangement. Probably by doing so, we could stop some idle tongues. You too, you just don't want to owe others a little bit of love, and you are thoughtful and considerate in everything. It is also a blessing for the old Zhou family to be in-laws with you." Lin Bao He laughed. "Uncle Wan, I really love hearing what you say." "You." Mr. Wan also laughed. "I thought you were going to be humble with me, Bao He. I found that you can always do surprising things. No wonder Chu Xia is so different. I used to wonder, but now I understand. Let you give influence." "Uncle Wan, what you said is really the greatest compliment to me." Lin Bao He couldn't close his mouth in a smile, and poked his wife's arm while laughing. "Daughter-in-law, did you hear that?" Uncle Wan said. "Our Xia family will follow me." Zhao Yulan puckered her lips and hit him. "If you say that in front of outsiders, they will have to wonder how ugly Xia is." Lin Bao He, I will say this from now on, let them think about it, and when they see Xia, they will feel that they want to smash their own eye sockets. "Uncle Wan, have you ever seen such a shameless person? Didn't you see this today?" "Uncle Wan." It was already 10 o'clock in the evening when they returned home talking and laughing. Mr. Wan couldn't stay up all night, so he left immediately and went back to his room. Back in her room, Zhao Yulan let out a long sigh. "Children and grandchildren have their own blessings, so don't think about it." Lin Bao He patted his wife on the shoulder comfortingly. "Go to bed and sleep, we have to stay here for a few more days, and we will finish the batch of work. I said you have such a big heart. When is it? You are still thinking about those broken matchboxes." Inexplicably, a wave of anger rose to the top of her head. "Yell at your husband." Not knowing where his wife's nameless anger came from, Lin Bao He just sat there with his head drooped and didn't speak. Sure enough, after a while, Zhao Yulan's anger subsided a lot, and she moved to sit next to her husband. "I don't know what's going on, but I feel stuck in my heart. Ordinarily, Chu Xia's father-in-law and Xiaomi are also back, so I should be happy, but I just can't be happy. Bao He, do you think I'm out of my mind?" Lin Bao He put his arms around her shoulders. "It's not that you have a brain problem, it's because for you, today is probably the day when your daughter will actually get married. You want her to marry well, but you're afraid that she won't. What happened to the Zhou family this time made you very scared. Maybe one day, if another incident like this happens again, it will hurt our daughter. However, you think that it is unrighteous for us not to be in-laws with the Zhou family because of this. Think about it, I said, is that the case? After a long silence, Zhao Yulan sighed heavily. Bao he, I still regret that I didn't find a chance to tell Chu Xia well, this time, don't mess with Xiaozhou, after you get married, you will be his daughter-in-law. Don't worry about this matter, our family Xia is a smart child, he has a lot. Lin Bao he was a little embarrassed to talk about this kind of thing with his wife, but this matter couldn't be avoided, so he bit his bullet and continued. Said, after giving birth to a daughter, sooner or later there will be such a day, we are already luckier than others, aren't we? When the old couple was struggling with this matter, the young couple was also awkward. Chu Xia returned home with the Zhou family and chatted a few words in the living room. Mrs. Zhou and Mrs. Zhou went back to the room, and then Lin Yangkai drove everyone back to the room to rest, which made it difficult for Chu Xia to stay in the living room anymore. Go down. Back in the room, looking at the bright red in the room, Chu Xia scratched her head. Obviously, she changed the order and quilt cover into an ordinary pair. Why, they changed them back again? What are you looking at? Zhou Mikang pushed her. If it's rare, go take a shower quickly. If you don't take a bath, you won't be allowed to sleep in bed. Chu Xia slipped into the bathroom with black hair. Could it be that this person is confused after eating dumpling soup? Hearing the sound of rushing water in the bathroom, the head of the group, Tongzi, whose face had been tense, immediately changed his color. He ran to the bed and lifted the corner of the quilt, and then covered it back again. After thinking about it, he simply ran away with his change of clothes. Also like to run out. What are you doing? At the stairs, Zhou Mikang was blocked by Lin Yangkaiu. Zhou Mikang showed a rare sneer, I'm going to the public bathroom to take a shower. After a while, I still have to go back to my own room. If you're not guilty, you won't explain this to me. Lin Yangkaiu took her son's arm and hurried back to her room, pushing Zhou Jingping, who was leaning on the bed and reading a book. Go out for a while, I have something to talk to my son. I'm his father, what's wrong with saying it in front of me? Zhou Jingping didn't want to move his place. After so many days, he finally came home. He found that the bed at home was the most comfortable. You're heavy, aren't you? Lin Yangkaiu started circling around the house looking for a handy handle. If you're capable, just sit still. If I don't pry you out, I won't be Lin Yangkaiu. Okay, I can't go out. Zhou Jingping shook his head helplessly, got out of bed, gave his son a hard look, and quickly walked out without waiting for his wife to get mad. Looking back, Lin Yangkaiu smiled gratifiedly. Xiaomi, seeing how you and your father get along now, Mom is really happy from the bottom of my heart. In the past, Zhou Jingping didn't even have time to please his son, so how dare he stare at him? Mom, if you have something to say, hurry up, I still have to take a bath. Zhou Mikang added, although I'm back, I can move out at any time. Are you threatening me? Lin Yangkaiu's nose twitched, and tears rolled down her face like broken beads. I'm finally looking forward to your return, so you treat Mom like this. Mom. Zhou Mikang looked at her blankly. What's the matter with you? It was the first time he saw his mother, and he cried like this because of something big. I've been humiliated and bullied all day long, and I'm finally looking forward to your return, so you're anxious to move out. Lin Yangkaiu sniffed, what will the outsiders say about me? They must say that my mother-in-law can't tolerate it. That's why I asked my son and his wife to move out and live on their own. Okay Mom, I know what you want to tell me. Don't worry, Chu Xia is your daughter-in-law and will always be. She can't run away, but there are some things, don't rush, she is still a child, I say that, Mom, do you understand? After a pause, Lin Yangkaiu looked at her son with an aggrieved expression. I understand, but don't make me wait too long, your elder brother, hey. Okay, I see. Zhou Mikang comforted her a few words, and couldn't help but said, Mom, Why did you become Lindayu in a straight line? You are too scary. If Ji Ping and Xiang seeing you like this, Ping might be scared to death. Is it true that my mother is in front of them? Lin Yangkai pushed her son out with a look of disgust. Okay, go take a bath quickly, your wife should be in a hurry. At this age, can there be a personality reversal? Zhou Mikang thought to himself, walked out, and after thinking about it, he still abducted to the public restroom. In fact, after this incident, he really had a new understanding of Chu Xia. Because of this, he didn't want her to have any regrets. Seeing that she was a little uncomfortable, then he would hide out first, give her time and space, and let her be fully mentally prepared, or this is the best way for everyone. After taking a shower in early summer, he put on pajamas that were so tight that his neck was barely exposed, and with his little head drooping, he groped his way to the bed. It wasn't until he climbed onto the bed and covered himself up that he finally had the nerve to look up, and it turned out, there is no one. What a considerate child. Someone secretly sighed, closed his eyes, and tried to fall asleep. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 303. The first update arrives, this is to make up for the update owed yesterday. Squeak. Hearing the sound of the door being pushed open, the heartbeat of Chu Xia, who was trying to sleep under the blanket, immediately accelerated. She didn't know whether she was shocked or panicked. The footsteps are getting closer, the quilt that was drumming there trembled rhythmically. Are you cold or scared? Zhou Mikang, who had already relaxed, sat on the edge of the bed with a chuckle, and patted the quilt. If you're scared, just tell me, I can go to sleep in another room. Chu Xia sat up suddenly, her eyes sparkling. She stared at Zhou Mikang expectantly, and finished the second half of the sentence. Zhou Mikang denied without hesitation, no. Chu Xia's little face collapsed, and she slowly retracted into the bed, rubbing down, until the quilt covered her head and was still rubbing down. The corner of Zhou Mikang's mouth twitched. Are you a maggot? Speaking so ugly, a muffled echo came from the bed. What do you want to do with this look? Zhou Mikang lifted the quilt and slapped someone's butt with his big hand. Get up and talk. Talk about it. Chu Xia glared at him bitterly and sat up. Can women's butts be photographed casually? Zhou Mikang, you're just a girl. Girls' buttocks are even more unacceptable. Is it a different matter if this girl is my wife? Hee hee. Chu Xia laughed all kinds of dog legs. Do you think you can hide by pretending to be a fool? Zhou Mikang stretched out his long arms and took Chu Xia into his arms, feeling the other party's struggle. The strength of his hand increased, and he firmly clasped the opponent's shoulder. Suffering from the pain, Chu Xia had no choice but to lean on his shoulder obediently. Say. Feel the depression in her heart. Zhou Mikang felt that his heart was blocked all of a sudden, and he patted her shoulder. So annoying me. You don't like me at all. Chu Xia turned her head and stared at him. Are you stimulated or are you out of your mind? I didn't like you in the first place. I haven't seen each other for a while. If I say that I like you, would you believe me? You. Zhou Mikang looked at her with a frown. Why do you act like a hedgehog whenever you talk to me? What I mean by asking this is that we have been married for so long. No emotion. Isn't that a problem? Chu Xia stared wide-eyed. With a speechless face, what's the difference from what I answered? Then do you like Jingzhe? Ah, Chu Xia stared at him blankly. What do you mean? Let me ask, do you like Jingzhe? Zhou Mikang asked almost word for word, and it was obvious that he was serious. Chu Xia's bachelor nods. I like it. The head of the group, Zhai's face immediately darkened. No. Why are you not allowed? Someone poked his neck. You are my wife. While speaking, the team leader pinched Chusea's chin and forced her to look directly at him. In this life, you can only be my wife, and put away other small thoughts for me. Are you mentally ill? Chusea's eyes became more angry. I don't know how you live these days. However, if you have been wronged and feel uncomfortable, you can talk to me. Whether I can't help you. At the very least, you can safely treat me as an emotional trash can. I will help you digest some negative emotions. But what are you doing? Take anger outside, go home and spread it on your family. Jo Mikang, let me tell you, Lin Chuxia, hate this kind of man the most. If you don't want to tell me what's in your heart, just say so. You don't need to find any random reasons. Jo Mikang snorted coldly, pulled up his shoes and walked out. I'll go to the guest room to sleep. You can sleep in peace. If you are really worried, come down and lock the door. I won't be able to pick the lock and enter. You. Chusea laughed angrily. Did you feel worried about all the women after being betrayed by Yamiru once? Shut up. Jo Mikang turned his head and stared at Chusea with red eyes. Lin Chuxia, don't know who you are just because I spoil you. Don't worry, I will always know who I am. I am Lin Chuxia, and I am the daughter of a farmer, but I am not inferior to you, nor have I begged you to marry me. To look down on me is to look down on yourself, because you chose all these things yourself, and you even forced me to marry you. If you think that I will rely on you in everything because my family is not as good as yours, then you have made a mistake. Let me emphasize again, I, Lin Chuxia, will never be inferior to you. Please you? Impossible. Looking at the little man sitting on the bed, staring at him with a stubborn face, opening and closing his mouth, Jo Mikang's heart burned like a fire. He didn't mean that, he didn't want to hurt her, let alone he disliked her idea of letting her please him, he just. Chusea, I was wrong. He quickly ran back to the bed and hugged her. I'm sorry, I was wrong, it was all my fault, I was narrow-minded, I'm sorry. This sudden apology stunned Chusea, who was talking happily, and was hugged so tightly by the other party that her breathing became a little difficult. She finally recovered and struggled hard. He thought she was still there. Angry, the strength in his hands became even stronger. I was about to be strangled to death by you. Jo Mikang was so frightened that he quickly let go, and simply turned his arms around, carefully testing her body. Does it hurt here? Where is it here? I'm not a glass man. Chusea glared at him angrily. I said, why are you so moody? With your temper, I think I should stay away from you in the future. Lin Chuxia, I guess, I really like you. Jo Mikang sighed heavily. I was wondering, how could I fall in love with you because you have such a bad temper, and you can blow your hair when you poke it? I can basically be sure now that I like you. Really? Chusea stared at him with bright eyes. Tell me quickly, how did you determine it, and let me analyze it for you. You. Jo Mikang was left speechless by her again. Tell me, don't be so stingy, I want to know. Chusea leaned down, resting his head on his lap, staring at him closely. Say it, I can tell if you're lying. You think too much. Okay, go to sleep. Jo Mikang pulled off the quilt, stuffed her in, then stuffed himself in, turned off the bedside lamp, stretched out his long arms, and wrapped her tightly in the arms. Sleep. Hey, don't wait for this. Don't talk about arousing people's curiosity at the beginning. Let me tell you, this is the most boring thing. Well, I was wrong. You are very interesting. I am not. I am just curious. I just want to know. Tell me. Don't keep silent. I'm not confident anymore. Really, everyone used to say that I'm not good looking, I can't work, and no one is married. Just say it and give me confidence. Hey, it's wrong to pretend to be dead. Get up and tell me. A certain person was about to be tormented to death by curiosity, so he simply grabbed the arm that was wrapped in front of him by the head of the regiment, and bit down hard. Feeling the smell of blood in his mouth, the other party still didn't make a sound. Josei looked frustrated. He simply let go, and became stunned. "You really can't sleep?" Yes, Josei quickly responded happily. "Are you going to tell me?" "Today at Jing's house, seeing you and Jingzhe talking and laughing so recklessly, that smile is the kind of undefended smile from the heart, I feel very uncomfortable. You never smile like that to me." "It's quite sensitive," Josei chuckled. "I regard him as an older brother. Let's put it this way, your feelings for Zhou Xiangping are the same as my feelings for him. Then how do you feel about me?" "For you." After a pause, Josei patted him. "Okay, let's go to sleep and stop talking." "Zhou Mikang. Is there such a person? It's so unkind to force others to speak out, and it's her turn." In fact, Josei didn't dare to talk to him anymore. She felt his body was getting hotter and hotter, and felt a certain part was hard. She was at a loss. If he must, she will not refuse. However, she would really regret it. In her opinion, this kind of thing can only be done by two people who really love each other. Or, she has a little affection for him, but she is still far away from love. Even when Yamiru found him, she didn't have any jealous thoughts. Zhou Mikang's mood is very complicated. Speaking of it, it seems that he has never really been in love. Before, he thought he and Yamiru were like that, but now, he knows that it is not. Apart from being angry at Yamiru's betrayal, he didn't seem to mind Yamiru hanging out with other male friends, and he didn't even mind them hanging out alone. But he knew that he cared about Lin Chuxia. In the evening at Jing's house, seeing Lin Chuxia getting along so well with Jing's family, especially when she smiled at Jingzhe, he really felt sour. He himself felt ashamed, a 27-year-old man, but he was still jealous. That's why he didn't want to answer Josei at that time. If he knew that he liked her, he really felt ashamed of his behavior. No, he will ask Wang Ji some other day. That guy is very transparent about emotional matters. Back then, he was the one who first saw that Yamiru was not suitable for him. "Zhou Mikang, give me time to get to know you, I'm serious." Zhou Mikang, who thought that Josei had already fallen asleep, was stunned for a moment, wrapped her arms around her, and then tightened them tightly. His cheeks pressed against her back, and after a while, his breathing became even. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 304. The second watch arrives. After Zhou's father and son came back, they did not notify their relatives and friends with much fanfare, including sisters Zhou Jiping and Zhou Xiangping. Therefore, it was not until the next morning that the two sisters got the news and rushed over one after another. Zhou Xiangping was able to come here because Mr. Liao finally released her from confinement. After nearly a month, Zhou Xiangping saw her natal family again, crying so hard that she kept calling for a divorce from Liao Hui. Liao Hui, who was standing beside the mother and daughter, looked embarrassed. Of course he didn't agree with Grandpa's actions. However, Grandpa was not in good health. Seeing that his always cheerful wife didn't have a smiling face every day, he felt very uncomfortable. In the past, the youngest daughter came to the house every day, and she hadn't seen her for nearly a month. Lin Yangkai was also panicked, and hugged her daughter to persuade her while wiping tears. Unhappy with what the Liao family did, Mr. Zhou, brothers Zhou Jingping and Zhou Zikang chose to remain silent, leaving Liao Hui hanging there with nowhere to put his hands and feet. Feeling that the atmosphere was a bit strange, Josei got up and slipped to the kitchen to help. The nanny hadn't come back yet, and it was Liang Xiaohong and Yu Tao who were busy in the kitchen. "Don't interfere with the bride." Seeing her washing her hands, Yu Tao joked with a smile, "I want the third brother to see what the younger siblings are capable of, So we can wait until later. Liang Xiaohong also smiled and said, yes, when a girl is an official for a day, Chu Xia, you just got married, and when you can still enjoy being an official, you can be free every day, why are you so rushing to find trouble? Second aunt, sister-in-law. Do you need to be so exaggerated? Chu Xia looked at the two of them helplessly, the nanny will be back soon. What is there to be tired of? He. Liang Xiaohong and Yu Tao laughed together, they were just teasing Chu Xia. Seeing that she was sincerely helping, he stopped being polite to her. Brother and sister, what special dish do you want to make? Yu Tao asked with a smile. I can make scrambled eggs with tomatoes and scrambled eggs with leeks. Chu Xia looked embarrassed. Cabbage can also be scrambled, but the taste is mediocre. He. Liang Xiaohong laughed. Our Nanping only knows these two dishes. Then she sighed, it would be great if she was as sensible as you. Second aunt. Wait for 2 years, and she will be fine when she is older, or she will be fine when she has a child. Chu Xia comforted her, you don't know your parents' kindness if you don't raise a child. Second aunt, don't worry. Yu Tao looked at Chu Xia amusedly. Siblings. If it comes from mother-in-law or sister-in-law, there is no problem at all. If it comes from your mouth, he. This has nothing to do with age. Chu Xia is 6 years younger than Nanping, but no matter how you compare, Nanping can't compare with Chu Xia. Liang Xiaohong smiled and waved her hands, actually, I have nothing to worry about. It's not a day since Nanping has a bad temper. If you don't come back, don't come back, as long as we live in peace. She herself is living in peace, other things are not a big deal. Yu Tao gave a thumbs up. Second aunt now has a sense of detachment that understands ordinary things. I don't have that much understanding. It's just that after something happens, I always gain wisdom. Sigh. Liang Xiaohong sighed softly, this time, my sister-in-law has suffered a lot for this family. She's better. Sure, the sister-in-law said quickly. Chu Xia, after a long time in the future, you will know that my mother-in-law is a very tolerant person, and she is very considerate of others. This time, I plan to move there together, but my mother-in-law won't let me go there no matter what. She said, my mother just had an operation, and her body hasn't recovered yet. If she knows that such a big accident happened to Joe's family, she will lose her energy if she is anxious. I stay at home, whether my mother knows it or not would be so worried. And after a pause, Yu Tao sighed, in short, you will know later, we have the best mother-in-law in the world, of course, grandparents, father-in-law, second uncle, second aunt, third uncle, etc. They are all good people who are hard to find with a lantern. Tao. Liang Xiaohong looked at Yu Tao with pity, you, don't put too much pressure on yourself, grandparents and your mother-in-law and father-in-law didn't mean to blame you. It's just a coincidence, you two have a good relationship, in short, good things take time, you should think about the good. Hearing what Liang Xiaohong said, Chu Xia suddenly realized that the root cause of Yu Tao's always taking care of everyone carefully, for fear of missing someone, was that she always felt sorry for her infertility. Sister-in-law, you have lived in your mother's house for so long, and your aunt has no doubts. Chu Xia changed the subject. It just so happens that my elder brother and second brother are on business trips, my sister-in-law and my mother have a bad relationship, and my second sister-in-law is far away from work and has no time to take care of her. I said that my mother-in-law's family allowed me to go back and accompany her for a while. Believe me, speaking of this, Yu Tao couldn't help sniffling again. Grandma always thinks so thoroughly, if I hadn't gone home to take care of my mother, this time, she still doesn't know what she would be tortured into. Every family has scriptures that are difficult to recite. How can there be such a thing in the world? Fortunately, both of your brothers are still filial. Besides, you are not here, right? That's right, Yu Tao laughed, we should be happy today. Let's not talk about these things. The three of them chatted in the kitchen, but they got a lot closer. The atmosphere in the hall is completely different from that in the kitchen. The old lady Zhou called Liao Hui to her side, and stared at him seriously. When you married Xiao Xiang back home, how did you promise us? Grandma, I'm sorry. Liao Hui drooped his head with shame on his face. It's all my fault. If you can't do it, Grandma, beat me up. Hee hee. Mrs. Zhou laughed, but she stared at Liao Hui without smiling at all. Are you making fun of my old lady? I am so old, even if I want to hitting you, who is the one who suffers? Then I'll slap myself. Liao Hui slapped himself twice as he spoke, and Zhou Zikang, who was standing aside, quickly grabbed him. What are you doing? Grandma will feel better if you do this. Zhou Xiangping had stopped crying at this moment, and when she looked up and saw the clear finger marks on Liao Hui's face, she felt distressed, but what she said was not very pleasant. You will be able to come here now. You beat yourself to death. Can you make up for the damage I have suffered these days? As long as you don't get a divorce, you can treat me whatever you want, Liao Hui said quickly. Really? Zhou Xiangping raised her eyebrows. Are you sure? You will listen to whatever I tell you to do. Although Zhou Xiangping's tone could be felt to be unkind, does he have any other choice at this time? Furthermore, having known each other since childhood and being a husband and wife for the past few months, he still has great confidence in his wife's character, and believes that no matter how hard she makes things difficult for him, she will not let him do anything unethical. For example, I believe she would not ask for severing ties with Grandpa and the Liao family. From now on, you are not allowed to say a word with Zhang Shui. Zhou Xiangping said every word. If I find out that you are still dating her, divorce is certain. Without waiting for Liao Hui's answer, Lin Yangqiu spoke first. Are you dating Zhang Shui? To what extent? When did it start? No, Mom, I really haven't been in contact with Zhang Shui. You mean that I wronged you? Zhou Xiangping snorted coldly. Am I, Zhou Xiangping, the kind of person who catches rumors and puts on hats at random? Huh. Liao Hui, did you forget to promise me something? Lin Yangqiu stared at Liao Hui with anger in her eyes. She had always known about Zhang Shui's little thought for Liao Hui, and she had talked to Liao Hui specifically. The other party expressed his attitude by patting his chest. Mom, I was wronged. Zhang Shui and I really have nothing wrong with us. We grew up together. It is okay to say hello when we meet, but there is really nothing else. Liao Hui asked for help. Looking at Zhou Zikang, brother, we meet often. If I have any moves, I can't hide it from you, right? This. Liao Hui grew up watching him grow up, and he has a bit of a gentle widow's judgment in his character, but he really doesn't believe that there is something wrong with his sister and Zhang Shui behind his back. However, at this time, defending the other party seems to be too cheap for the other party. Anyway, what the Liao family did this time is really unreasonable. But he didn't want the matter between his younger sister and Liao Hui to become complicated. After all, the relationship between the two had always been good. If something happened because of this incident, it wouldn't be worth it. Weighing back and forth, Zhou Zikang didn't know whether to speak for Liao Hui. If it was before, Zhou Mikang would probably throw Liao Hui out directly. However, during this period of time, his freedom was restricted, and he also went through the relationship in detail, so he knew that the relationship is not simply judged by black and white. Fourth sister, tell me the reason for your suspicion. Zhou Mikang looked at Zhou Xiangping with a serious expression on his face. If he really did something wrong to you, I will make the decision for you. Thank you, third brother. Zhou Xiangping gritted her teeth and took out a letter from her pocket. I found this from Liao Hui's coat pocket. She looked at Liao Hui. I will give you one last chance. If you say it, I can still forgive you. If you have to admit it only after I expose it, then our husband and wife will be successful. I still say the same thing. Zhang Shui and I are fine. Liao Hui stared at Zhou Xiangping firmly. Although I don't know what is written in the letter in your hand, I hope you give me the power to read letters, and the power to verify. Zhou Xiangping stared at him disappointedly. Are you guilty, or do you want to beat him up?